Let's talk more about the Qaballa. I got a lot of requests for further explanation on planetary associations and the magical science related to the Qaballa. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding and maybe just very little information out there about it. So I'm going to link the Qaballa to everything that you will do within a magical operation, from how you will trace a circle, from how you will do callings, to how you will do summonings, to how you will set up altars, how you will create vibrational correspondence within your own sphere of influence. The whole thing. So let me give a general outline of what the Qaballa looks like in its planetary form. Now, I tend to stay away from the Jewish form of Qaballa, not because I have anything against the Jewish people, but they took the Qaballa in a intellectual and stringent, narrow, religious, dogmatic approach, and the type of Qaballa that I do doesn't fall into that at all. It is the magical science, the ceremonial style of mystical Qaballa that outdates the Jewish Qaballa, that outdates all other Qabbalas currently being shown. This is probably as close to the original as possible. So let's start with Kether, which I usually will refer to as the planetary sphere of Uranus, the highest of the high. The planetary symbol of Uranus looks like that. The association with the crown, I think, is very apparent in this pictograph. This sphere, the head, the crown. So in your magical workings, when you get all the appropriate regalia, all the magical accoutrement, that's a good word, this will reflect what is called the imperishable crown. And the imperishable crown symbolizes that you have authority over the four highest of the high elements that Kether is the birthplace of. That is why the ace cards, the ace of cups, the ace of wands, the ace of pentacles, the ace of swords, are attributed here, because they are the purest forms of those archetypal elemental powers that most people deal with on a very gross physical level. And these are some of the purest representations of their symbolism. You are made up of both the purest and the lowest forms of these, as in physical matter, your physical body, and then your highest ideals and thoughts. They all equate to a breakdown of elemental energy. So this would refer to your authority, your rulership over the highest of the high of the elementals. Then we flow down into Chokmah, which a lot of people will equate with Neptune. I'm comfortable with Neptune, that's cool. I'm more, per se, comfortable with the zodiac, but they all fit very nicely here. All fit very nicely within Chokmah. And the tools associated with this is the double-headed wand, and what is called the inner robe. And that is always white. Inner robe is always white. The double-headed wand refers to as above, so below. That is, Chokmah is the father energy. The highest representation of the father. And that is outpouring energy from above. Think of Kether as a gigantic, endless, unlimited fountain of just pure creativity. This, the double-headed wand, if you look at the Magician card in the Rider-Waite deck, the Magician is holding a wand upward and pointing his finger downward. He is the embodiment of that double-headed wand, also called the Zodiac wand. The reason it's called the Zodiac wand, some people call it the Rainbow wand, and that's not necessarily true, but it's true enough, I guess. The Zodiac wand is the representation of all 12 Zodiac powers, starting from Aries and its appropriate color of sort of like a 20 red-orange, going the whole spectrum down to Pisces. And this is held in the appropriate manner of lightest fiery energy all the way down to the deepest, darkest of Pisces. So Pisces would be pointed towards the physical world, and that is a representation of light energy coming down and becoming more dense. And there's a lot of things you do with the Zodiac wand, but this is primarily its function. The inner robe, this is where the Illuminati come in with their idea of piercing the darkness to come into the greatest light. They twistedly and unfortunately go through what is called the Quilappian tree, which is the inverse kind of this tree. And the difference between this tree and their tree is one thing. This tree has a system of checks and balances within its own paradigm, where Saturn and Mars and Mercury go and dissect what Chokmah, Jupiter, and Venus just kind of grow abundantly. And what Mars, Saturn, and Mercury cut away, Jupiter, Venus, and Neptune, or the Zodiac, grow back. So it's a constant pruning back and growing back of energies, so you keep a balance. The Quilappian tree has no such checks. It is destruction for destruction's sake, growth for growth's sake, and what grows will continually grow until it'll eventually become putrid, and destruction just keeps growing, or keeps destroying and destroying and destroying, and nothing is able to grow. And so you reach this tree that is just in absolute bedlam, and the souls that dip into it also achieve absolute bedlam. It's not a good place to be. Unfortunately, it's a very easy road to travel because your personal accountability is nil. Nothing in that tree says that you owe anything, but there will come a time where it will come and collect. It's very much, this tree here is pay as you go, okay? You don't collect debt on this tree. You pay as you go. The other tree is you play now, pay later. And trust me, that's the whole reason behind the Faustian Pact, is they're going to pay with you. Don't like it? Start fucking resisting. And this is one way to do it. This is the magical equivalent of understanding what they're doing and then using it against them to, one, free yourself from the Faustian Pact, and two, shut them down in the astral world. All right, so this is Chokmah. Now, the inner robe, that's what I was talking about. The inner robe signifies your greatest spiritual values, okay? And those are covered by the outer robe as a form of protection, also symbolizing you have to get through a period of darkness to get to liberation. But it's different than what the Illuminati do. So we go over here to Saturn. Now, Saturn is greatly misunderstood. Greatly misunderstood. There are some people that really think that the Illuminati worship Saturn. Saturn is about death. It's about setting time limits. You don't live forever. Your physical body doesn't live forever. Nothing lasts forever. All right, if it was summer perpetually, people would hate summer. They're happy when winter comes. On the inverse, they're happy when summer comes after a long winter, okay? Saturn sets limits. That's all it does. It sets time and space. It's Kronos. Kronos is the master of time and space. If you were to come to me and say, Bearheart, I want to be like you, and I want to be able to one-hand press 165 pounds over my head. Guess what I'm going to do to you? I'm going to put you under very heavy iron. I'm going to make you sweat, cry, sometimes even bleed, and struggle with weights until you're able to do it. I'm going to make you test yourself against heavy iron. Test yourself against resistance until you are strong enough to overcome whatever your goal is. Saturn does that for you. Saturn gives you the iron. Saturn gives you the resistance you need to become stronger and stronger and stronger. Yes, it may seem like it's cruel, it may seem difficult, but it is worth the struggle. And if you don't want to be a part of it, too fucking bad, because this is how the universe is set up. Adversity builds men, okay? Men and women. Unfortunately, like the tree of the Qaballa, abundance creates monsters. The Rockefellers never had to work a fucking day in their life, all right? Other than a couple of them that stole all the wealth anyways, all these motherfuckers have to do is continue on with a gigantic sham hoax. And they just sit back, get weak. Have you ever seen a Rockefeller? They're the palest, weaselly-list, little... I mean, they're basically like walking skeletons with like skin hanging off their bones because like a chill wind would blow them over. These people don't know how to function. They just know how to lie, manipulate, and their life of opulence and abundance has corrupted them, turned them into monsters. But you put a man, make him work, or a woman, you make them work, you make them sweat honestly, they create strong people, strong humans, strong men, strong women who are honest, who know the value of work. And this is what Saturn does. Yes, Saturn takes when it is time, but only when it is time. And the Illuminati do not worship Saturn. They hate Saturn. Saturn is competition for them. They worship what truly is a satanic current of destruction for destruction's sake, opulence, and indulgence for indulgence sake. The entity known as Satan, who is not Lucifer, for all you Christian miscreants out there, is a grossly, morbidly bloated being that just destroys for destruction's sake and loves to gobble and be as glutton as possible. This is their lord, not Saturn. Saturn is your friend, people. Saturn makes you stronger, all right? It's Crom of Conan the Barbarian, right? A cruel father that makes his children be strong, okay? Crom is also a old mountain god of Celtic religions, and there was a test that all chieftains had to go through, a horrible, grueling test to make sure that they were fit to rule. And if you failed, more than not, you died. But if you didn't go through it, you didn't have the right to rule, and people didn't have the right to be born from your stock. And therefore, the Celts bred strong, warlike people that defended their land against, you know, very well armed, very well put together armies, and succeeded for a long time. Now, not to say they didn't fall, but it worked. It worked. So Saturn is the chalice. My writing's not so great today. Is the chalice. It is the outer robe that contains all the spiritual power that emanates from you, that gives it containment, because if your energy is spilling out everywhere, it's not going to have a place to go. Picture your energy like water, okay? Water will just spread out everywhere. Saturn is the hose or the bowl or the cup that collects it, that you can begin to build it up and then channel it, okay? Which the outer robe is always black, my tradition. And then also you have the curious thing of what's called the lead weight. This helps manifest things down. This helps hold things down. And we'll get into that some other point. But I just want you to have that idea. Now, something I don't talk about very much, I'm going to write it on this particular one, just because people are like, well, how come you never talk about it? Pluto. Okay? Pluto is Doth. Okay? I am, because of my birth chart, I am a Taurus, right on the cusp of Gemini, and my moon is Scorpio. I have a Plutonian moon. My moon sign is Plutonian. This is how I perform my magic, is Plutonian, because that's my moon sign. That's a very difficult moon sign to have, especially because it is in direct opposition to Taurus, which I am. So there's a whole lot of weird interplays that come crushing down on me occasionally, and I need to be very careful, and I've had to learn to be, it's good when you learn how to use it, but if you don't know how to use it, it's really destructive. Pluto, I'm not going to talk about very much. I'm just going to write invisible. Pluto is a very tricky character, for good reasons, gloom and doom, that kind of thing, but also wealth in many forms. It just probably not something you need to know very much about unless you're Plutonian moon. And for right now, I'm not gonna get into Doth. There's just too much, and a little information can be very harmful about Doth. So this leads us down to Jupiter. Jupiter is an interesting area because this marks the first tangible, non-abstract energy that humans can attain to. Scepter of authority. This is like kingship. The flip side is going to be the warrior Mars. And this is the cup of principalities. Cup of Principalities, or known as the Holy Grail, for those of you who have never heard of the Holy Grail that supposedly caught the blood of Jesus, who also caught the blood of Apollo, who also caught the blood of Dionysus, who also caught the blood of Mithras, who, I mean, really honestly, every single solar deity has had their blood collected, all right? It's so fucking universal that it's almost silly. But the Cup of Principalities is the shared cup. It is the cup that brings men together, all right, over mediation, business, that kind of thing. Friendship is the place. A Jupiter or chest is a place of business transaction, mediation, friendship, camaraderie, the bringing together of, the rulership of these energies, the rulership, self-mastery of yourself, okay? The flip side is Mars. Mars is all about the bringing down, the cutting away, the tearing down, the wearing away. This, where Jupiter builds up, Mars tears down, okay? This is the great interplay. Huge interplay, and one of the major cross points of the crucifixion mystery. One day I'll do a whole video about the crucifixion mystery and really show how Jesus relates to the middle path and then the crossroads across here. It's really going to open some eyes. But Mars is the sword, it's the spear, it's the hammer, and it's the chain, or scourge. These energies are to slice, to pierce, to crush, and to wear down. These are all the energies of Qaballa. They're also energies that you use against yourself, to make room for healing, to tear your body down, to build it back up. You have catabolic and anabolic. The whole strength training, physical, spiritual, mental, is right here. And this path between them is called strength. It is built within the strength card. if you can't be a magician without understanding these two polarities and spending a year or two on just these two alone. Absolutely unimaginably important. Unimaginably important. These are the two places that Jesus' hands were nailed into. Joined or nailed, meaning that he understood them both. The injury of Mars done to him, the spear in the side, created the opening for Jupiter to fill. Essentially, the world was injured when the solar deity died. And that opening left a hole that needed to be injured or that needed to be healed. But if the world didn't learn how to heal, every single injury inflicted would just eventually kill it. I can go on and on, so I'm going to stop there. This is also a power of this. These two things here are highly masculine in their power to destroy and power to create. Strong masculine path, although women can learn a ton from it too. There is a feminine path in here as well, and I will point that out. Now we go to Pareth, the solar symbol. This is what you become when you do the lesser banishing of the ritual. This is actually where you stand, where your heart lines up to if you were to stand back to the entire tree of life. This is technically the center of the universe of the Qaballa. This is why Jesus is in the middle of the cross, of the middle pillar right here. His heart died. His heart bled. His heart was broken and then mended. Okay? He is the solar point. You also are the solar point. I like to use Apollo. I'm very comfortable with Apollo. His stories are basically where Jesus came from. Everything that Jesus did, Apollo did first. Sorry. Well, actually, I'm not. So here, within the heart, you have the banner. Okay? Sigils. Okay? You have talismans. All right, and you have what's called the breastplate, something that most magicians nowadays have just never heard of it. The breastplate. One of the oldest breastplates in the world was something that hung around your neck. Okay, and had a gemstone for every single one of the zodiac. Okay, and you wore that over your heart center. And you could count on the protections, the energies of those zodiacs. Back then, and still even with my tradition, there is a god associated with each of the zodiac. And the whole story, a whole initiation for each level of the zodiac. There are powers for each individual zodiac. That took 12 years because you did one a year. And each time that you did this, you gained a gemstone. Once you could wear it, you were generally viewed as a high priest. And you gained the protection. Black magic, Trans-Plutonian beings, negative energies, all these things could not pierce that breastplate. I have one. Next we go to the Venusian energy. The Venusian energy is the feminine, is the beginning of the feminine path. Although the feminine path doesn't go across, it goes diagonal, actually, and it connects with the moon. The Venus path is all the trappings, all the physical accoutrement, all the grandeur and pomp of the ritual. It's also the mirror, which isn't the astral mirror per se, it's the reflective mirror. It's the mirror that you look into to see what you're going through at that particular time. Your emotions are reflected back in your facial features and how you're carrying your body. So you can tell what kind of emotions that you need to amplify or that you need to suppress to get through a ritual. Also, all the colors, all the symbols, everything that you'd use to decorate your altar or your ritual space comes as a power of Venus or Netzach, okay? Next you have the mercurial energy. Mercury. Mercury is the ritual book. And that could mean all the words, that could mean the ritual itself, the ritual structure. That also can mean the operations. And generally there's an apron. Apron has been stolen by the Freemasons. And the apron was also viewed as someone who was working a craft. So if you were working magic, there was an apron that signified your craft as magic. The apron, I have an apron, I do wear mine, but only really in real formalities when I'm dealing with very high entities will I go through the whole ritual accoutrement. It's rare. Really only when I'm dealing with entities of the high five, really up here. We'll get into that later too. But yes, there is an apron involved. There is then Yesod, the moon, Luna. This is the area of dreams. This is the portal to the astral world. I'll explain that too. So, but this also has to do with incense and sandals. Why sandals? Your astral body never touches the physical world because, well, it does. Your astral body has become your physical body. Your astral body is the step, or the dream body is the step right above manifestation. This is the portal area into the astral world. Okay? Everything becomes more physical dense as you move down and becomes lighter and brighter as you move up. Alright? So, this talks about keeping barriers between the physical worlds and your astral body. Okay? So when you are doing ritual and you're wearing magical sandals, this signifies that you are operating in the astral world, first and foremost, and secondary within the physical world. The incense creates ritual setting. It's smoky. It is invisible, kind of. It talks about the entities that are coming into your sphere of influence or in your triangle or square or circle, which at some point we'll get into, for different types of manifestations and different types of summonings. This incense will be a carrying vibration for you to send out the right level of vibration and to hold the right visualization to make the connection with the sigil, but also gives the spirit a substance to manifest with, so that you can have a much more meaningful conversation when you can actually see a face and a body rolling around in the smoke. And when you see this, most people run when it becomes that real. I don't. I continue with the conversation. That's when you know you're a true magician, is when you're able to do that. This has also the loincloth. The loincloth. The loincloth signifies that this hangs over your genitalia. The loincloth signifies the fact that sexuality is all about the astral realm. The stronger you are with your sexual currents, the more power that you will affect in the astral realm. For Christians, this is going to be damn near impossible to understand. And that's Christians. That's for people who are Muslim and Jew, where they all believe sexual thoughts, energy is dirty. They kept their monks locked up in abbots, and they went insane and hated women and molested children because their sexual currents were just way out of balance. Magical work is all about keeping your sexual energy flowing. And yes, that means indulging in sex. Maybe not to the point of full-on gluttony, but a healthy sex life is healthy magical life. If it's celibacy for celibacy's sake, it's madness. Absolute crazy madness. So, now we come down to Malkuth, or the kingdom. This is where you live. Where you live, your physical body and your sphere of influence, the people around you, are all your kingdom. You are master of your domain, whether or not you know it. And there is a symbolic marriage that happens to Malkuth. Now, because most of the magicians in the 1400s on were male, they called this the inferior bride. Like this related to the pages of the tarot. Crowley went on to call them the princesses, which is pretty correct. And you married these elemental energies, or you married your astral gender opposite counterpart. However, because I am in a true magical tradition that isn't masculine or isn't feminine, but just is, you marry spiritually your astral gender opposite, and this is where that gender opposite is all about. You also have the gross elemental matter, the fire of Leo, the earth powers of Taurus, the dark waters of Scorpio, and the air powers of Aquarius. These are your elemental tools and your altar. So Malkuth is your altar. This is where you keep everything and perform your work. A rock is a great altar. They often had a tin-sided double cube. Now, the reason that these colors are muted, now, these aren't yellow, red, green, and blue, okay? They're olive, russet, citrine, and black. It's viewed as dull colors because you're viewed as being removed from the great shining light of Kether. And once you connect that circuit, the light shines down and illuminates these dull colors, okay? And then they become those other colors, bright colors. But they're always viewed as muted colors or dulled down colors because of their distance, even though there is a direct connection between Malkuth and Kether. There's a direct balance point. So if you do a lot of work with Kether, you can become greatly imbalanced. You need to balance out with doing work with the elemental forces. However, if you work too much with fire, then you need to work a lot with water. If you work too much with earth, you need to do some work with air, just to keep you balanced out. If you do a lot of work with Chokmah, you need to rebalance yourself out with Saturn. Same vice versa. If you do a lot of work with Jupiter, you need to balance yourself out with Mars. You do a lot of work with Venus, you need to balance yourself out with Mercury. Venus is all about great emotional power. Venus is the intellect behind those emotional powers. If you're way too intellectual, you become gray and sullen and you can't connect. If you're too emotional, you can't fucking make rational decisions. The same with the sun. If you become so enriched with the sun, then you become egocentric and egomaniacal. You need to work with the moon. The moon will give you a chance to reevaluate your goals and your dreams. Same thing, if you get too dreamy, oh, the astral world, blah, 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 and you are leading. Now, this is a dangerous path. Well, I shouldn't say dangerous, but the road to the Qulap happens from Yesod. That's the astral world. And the danger with the astral world is all about deceiving you. It'll show you exactly what you want to see. You need to disbelieve what you initially see and demand to see behind it, because you create your own monsters here. This is Gaia. And she will manifest whatever you put in her. All right? So if you create the engines of your own destruction, guess what? That's what's going to come back at you. This path between between Yesod and Malkuth is called the universe, all right? And this is the tunnel. Let me explain this. Saturn rules over the physical earth. The physical earth is about limitation and entrapments, but is also about liberation. Limitation, liberation are the great dualities of this. Once you can liberate yourself from your physical binds, you can travel freely into the astral world. This is why Christianity says no traveling, you can't ever know, because they don't want you to realize there's a big giant universe out there. They just want you to believe Jesus will come and set you free, and then give all your money to the church, who teaches their priests all about that. Okay, they teach their priests about it all. They don't want you to know. They want you to be trapped. They don't want you to have the experience. They don't want you to go out and say, my God, I can connect with God without you, because then they go out of business. And, you can bitch and babble at me all you want, but that's the truth, and in your heart you know it. So this is the tree of life set up within the magical science. Most of the religion happens on this great middle path, and it's called the path of sun, moon, and stars. So also called the archer's path. And a lot of the yogi who talk about transcendence will talk about traveling just this middle path. They don't bother with the right or left path. And most mystics will also just travel the middle path. There's a great deal of balance on these paths, and you don't need to worry too much about becoming imbalanced, because you're working with the balancing equilibrium path. When you do the Kabbalistic cross, okay, you are signifying, you are drawing energy down your middle channel, which is the top of your head, all the way down your spine to your feet, and you are connecting your right and left through your heart center. So that makes that cross that I was drawing out. Someone's like, you can just draw anything in this. It's bogus. No, this is the crucifixion cross. Jesus, his whole body, his head, his heart, his genitals, and his feet are on this, and his hands are nailed, his feet are nailed, and they are joined together on this cross, and he suffers for what he believes in. His heart is wounded and is mended later, okay? The sun set, Jesus died. The sun was reborn, Jesus came back. The spear of Mars wounded Jesus' side, and the Holy Grail caught his blood, okay? Massive amounts of total symbology that's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years older than Christianity, when Christianity decided to say, you know what, we're going to start our own religion, and we're going to steal from Apollo, basically. Apollo and Dionysus were the major influences who also went through this crucifixion, death, rebirth initiation, as did, you could probably email me, thousands of other slain and risen gods. Not necessarily interested in them. But I want you to have a better idea of the magical science that you're working with, or that you will be working with. I'm going to break things further down. If you have questions, always email me. I'll try to get back to you. But this is the breakdown of the magical tradition that I follow, and the tools that I use. Oh, I was going to show you. This is my, I don't know if you can see that. This is my chalice of Saturn. It's got Pan and his lesser-known counterpart, Babylon, on it. I received this as a present for work that I did within a very large Wiccan coven. It's my chalice, my Saturn chalice. Oh, that's right. The Saturn chalice, the Jupiter chalice, and the water cup are not the same, okay? Very different purposes, very different reasons, and there's nothing on this that I've written that I don't actually have made, collected, earned, initiated into. Got the whole thing. And I'll teach you how to use every single one of them. So I hope that gives a better understanding, a clear perspective of the type of magical tree that I use. And we'll go forth from here.